What's cracking, everyone? Friedemann Findeisen here from Holistic Songwriting. Welcome to the 92nd ever live stream for Holistic Songwriting. Today we're going to be talking about songs only, I believe. So we're skipping the question section for today because I've already answered those over the past week via comments. And we're going to jump straight into feedback for your songs. So I've been gone for the past 3 weeks. I was in Krakow in Poland and learned a new language, or at least attempted to, because Polish is very, very, very hard. Bardzo trudne, which means very hard. It doesn't have anything in common with German or English or French or Dutch. Basically had to learn everything from scratch. And there's a lot of consonants, so there was that struggle for sure. How are you guys doing? What's been happening since I was gone? That's pretty much it. I don't really have that much to talk about it. I mean, you maybe followed me on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or whatever. So you saw some of the pictures from Krakow. It was a really cool trip, and it was a very, very well-needed change of pace for me because I had just been working like a crazy person for the last couple of months. Really, since January this year, I've been just working like a maniac. And so it was really nice to do something else for a change. It was kind of like a vacation, a work vacation, because I was, practicing and training all day, essentially. But still, change of pace, something else. I really noticed that my skill, I haven't really learned anything by heart in such a long time. For me, it was a really big change of pace to do something like that, where you had to just learn words, just by heart. I really feel like my strength is in understanding things more than learning things, I think. At least learning things by heart, things that don't necessarily make sense. So I'm more about understanding how things work and architecture of things, or the mathematics, the logic behind things. I think that's what I'm really good at. So that was interesting to realize, and I think I should do more of those kind of things because it trains a part of my brain that I don't use that much. But I do realize that it's a quite an important part. So that was quite interesting. Now we have a lot of songs to go through today, so I'm not going to bore you with my antics about Poland. So let's jump right in and get started with the songs. Let's start today's session with a song by Luigi, who says, "Yo, this is the rewritten version of the song I wrote at the songwriting camp in Spain with Niels, the guy you met in Enschede," which was so funny. Literally a week after I gave feedback on your track last time, I met this guy in Enschede who said "Hey, I know you. I've seen your video." I was like, "What, really?" So it was kind of cool. All right, so let's check this out. This is a Dropbox link, so unfortunately you won't be able to see anything, but it's a start. So let's check it out. This is called Stay. And I believe I've given feedback to this already, and this is basically just a new version of it. So let's check it out.
Came in from the pouring rain, with bright eyes like a sunny day in Spain. Reminded me of when we met, back when you were stuck inside my head. And the smile of friendly kiss, hello, brings us all the way back too long ago. When you were mine and I was yours. Now you're still stuck inside my head. Where did we go wrong? We lost our favorite song. Can't stop thinking of the way that we made love. Gotta find a way to make you wanna stay. There's no reason for the sun to come up, for the stars to shine, or the rain to fall. There's no reason to get up in the morning if I have to sleep alone. So stay with me.
Very 90s.
Times made me a different man. Where did we go wrong? We lost our favorite song. Can't stop thinking of the way that we made love. Gotta find a way to make you wanna stay. There's no reason for the sun to come up, for the stars to shine, or the rain to fall. There's no reason to get up in the morning if I have to sleep alone. So stay with me.
Cool, man. Cool. A lot of good stuff happening here. I really like the production of this. I think the sounds are all really, really cool. I like the structure of it, and generally, I think most of it works really rather well. I think the verses are great. I think the intro, the guitars are definitely too soft. I mean, the vocals are just like way, way, way too in comparison to the guitars.
Dreaming from the pouring rain.
Like, because the guitars are already playing just palm muted, and it's also already very hard to hear. I kind of want those to be a little bit louder. You could possibly think about just making them. I mean, they definitely should be louder, but maybe you're just gonna pan them to one side, like, you know, I don't know, 25-30% to one side, so they're a little bit more distinct from the vocals, and there's a little bit more separation between those two elements. Like, definitely that should be louder. But I love, like, when the rest of the band falls in the verse continued. I think that works really rather well. Right now it's a little bit too much of a shock. Like, the whole, you know, it sounds so full compared to that intro, to that first verse. That it's a little too much. I think the beginning has to sound a little bit bigger so the shock isn't so big. Because unfortunately, I think right now, and this is probably the biggest issue I still have with this, is this moment when we go from this verse to verse continued, like when the full band comes in, that's like the biggest woof, the biggest energy moment when we have a really clear jump in energy. And when we reach the chorus, there is something going on, but it feels like the actual, I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening, there's a lot of variation, there's a lot of contrast to the earlier section, but in terms of energy, it's just like a very small little jump. And so, okay. First of all, I really think the intro should be a little bit more high energy. At least the guitars should be a little bit louder, so that when the rest of the band falls in, it's not such a huge shock, because that's not where you want your energy incline. You want it later in the chorus, obviously. I think the second verse is great. I think the melodies in the verse are great. Let's go to the pre-chorus, because I think I'm not sure if I like it that much. I think the melody here could be stronger. Let's go through that again.
Where did we go wrong? We lost our favorite song. Can't stop thinking of the
I just think the melody is not that interesting. Let me think. I mean, I like how you end it, and like, because there's a lot of tension. Make you want to stay. You know, that little thing at the end there. It's a really nice way of going into the chorus. Although personally, I would have liked the make you want to stay. Like, I want that to just get bigger and bigger and bigger. So like adding, you know, automating reverb onto that so that it's like just like feeling make you want to stay, boom, and then we go into the chorus. You know what I mean? Because right now it feels very dry as we're doing that.
to make you wanna stay.
Right? So there's like this, now we have this little silence here, this little break. which kind of feels just very empty. I would have liked it to, automate some reverb here. So like reverb comes in and it's like all drawn out and super long, and then the chorus comes in with that percussion. So yeah. And what I mean by that is the reverb and the vocals should kind of melt together, so you can't really tell where reverb begins and vocals end. So that's make you wanna stay, and then you get this huge kind of stadium churchy kind of reverb on it, so that it just kind of flows into one another. And I think that's gonna work better, and you don't have this little pause here, which I don't quite like. Okay, but back to the pre-chorus. It feels so energetically to me. This is a section that wants to be low energy, that wants to be relaxed, right? That wants to and at the same time build a little bit towards the chorus. I think the building works pretty well. I think the low energiness of it could be better. Like, it's okay. Maybe it's the performance. I think it feels rather rushed. It feels like a da 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 da. It feels very kind of breathless, and so maybe it is a performance thing. If you can get that to sound a little bit more relaxed, I think the whole section would work better. Because right now it's a weird mix of, like, the music says this is low energy, but the vocals kind of point in a different direction and kind of say, like, oh no, this is kind of high energy, like, because I need so much air to do this thing. And there's just so many words, so there's a lot of the tempo here is a little too high for me in terms of the amount of words per minute. I don't know. So that's kind of my issue with the pre-chorus. And then the chorus, I think, is much better than last time when you showed me, because now you're starting like a strong melody, like on the one of the measure, unlike the first time when I heard it, because the music here doesn't start on the one, right? Let's listen to that again. Right, so the bass comes in on the 1, 2, and in the first version you had shown me, I think the vocals came in definitely after the 1, on the 2 or after that, but doesn't matter. Like, that was kind of confusing. So I said to you guys, like, write a melody that starts on the 1 or before the 1, something that so that it's clear that this is the 1 and that we're in the chorus. Because if we have a whole beat, the 1, where there's percussion but we're not sure we're in the chorus yet, it's kind of confusing, and it takes us a little bit too long to, like, we all want to do this in the chorus, right? There should be this feeling of relief, or like finally all this tension pays off and we're at that moment of gratification. And that doesn't happen if you delay that kind of stuff a little bit too long. There's ways of doing it, and one of them is starting the vocals earlier. So the music is a little bit delayed, but the vocals are there to, like, give you that moment of gratification. Now, I think my biggest point of critique, though, is the chorus doesn't open up enough, and I think it's the problem of the melody, unfortunately. So sorry if I'm like singling you out here again, but the fact of the matter is just, like, the vocals are the most important part of any song. So I think the vocals here could just be better, and especially coming from the verse, which was so well written, and I really like the verse. I love the sound of it all. I think that works really rather well. Pre-chorus, like, I think it's still pretty good. Again, I think the performance could be a little bit more relaxed, so it just sounds like super, like, where did we go wrong? We lost the favorite song. Instead of having this high intensity kind of thing. If it was a little bit more relaxed, I think that works. The melody would work as well. But then going into the chorus, I think here it feels like more of the same on a kind of on a different pitch, but it doesn't feel like something that is like that matches the energy level of the music, which does have some very clear kicks, and it's like weird and funky in a way. And the vocals don't quite do that. For me, the vocals would need to do something a little bit more energetic here, I think. I think the vocals should be a little bit more independent of the music here. I think the function of the music here. So what the bass is doing here essentially is we have these punches every once in a while, right? So instead of having like a bass that is just playing the entire time, we have now something that just goes dun da da dum, that kind of thing where there's a stop and go kind of relationship with the beat. What I think the vocals should do is exactly the opposite. I think the vocals should be there as the sort of anchor, as a sort of rhythmical anchor. And So what I'm kind of hearing is something like a da 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 da. So a melody that kind of drives through it. Something that is a little bit more independent of the music. Something that doesn't follow those beats, those hits that much. Something that has an energy of its own. Something that drives you through that chorus. So let's try to imagine this without Luigi's vocals, and let me just try to sing along to this. Oh, right, okay, I just realized I almost sang this exact same melody. But the difference is, I think my melodies are a little bit shorter. Like my phrases are shortened. And I just realized the tempo is much slower than I thought. So let's do this again. I'm gonna turn this down a little bit. Da 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 da. Yeah. So that's kind of what I was hearing. Something with a little bit shorter phrases, so there's a little bit more drive going through it, because the shorter your phrases, the more phrases you have, the higher the density, the higher the energy, okay? The bigger the drive, the better the flow, so to say. So this, I think, again, has some good ideas, but I think that it could flow a little bit better. And that's pretty much it. I think the rest of it is really great. I don't care that much for this line here. I think if you're going to do something like that, then I think the music should build with that again and hit that as well. So something with where the drums go. Because the music, I feel like, should end together with the vocals. Stay with me. And then we go into the second verse. See what I mean? So that there's a little bit more. I think those need to interlock a little bit, because right now the music kind of ends and then the vocals feel like they're still singing the chorus. There's a little bit of a disconnect going on there. Apart from that, I really like this. Don't get me wrong. I think there's so much good stuff here. I think the verses are great. I think the pre-chorus is really great. Needs maybe a little bit more work in terms of the recordings. And I think the chorus, that's, I think, your biggest issue. I think the music, again, pretty much all of it works great. Raise the volume of the guitars in the intro, but I think you should be really good. Sounds really great. All right. So that's that for Luigi's song. Moving on to a song. Do you have anyone who's posted more than a week ago? No. Okay, so let's do Mike Dubre. Dubre? I don't know. Who says, hey dude, big fan of the channel. Well, thank you very much. And also the Addiction Formula. I got the audiobook version. It has helped me improve my music and given me a new way to look at songwriting. So seriously, thanks for that. Dude, thanks for buying it and thanks for supporting me. That really means a lot. And hopefully you're going to like the new book just as much. It's a bit of a different thing, but hopefully you're going to get something out of it as well. Something I'm really trying to improve is my mixing and mastering. This track is my first shot at stereo imaging. ? I still feel it's missing some elements, some obvious fixes I haven't gotten to, like some explosive P sounds I've yet to re-record. But I've been sitting with this mix for a while, so this is my good enough moment. I really hope you dig the track. Okay, so let's check this out. This is, what is this called? Locked and Loaded by Existential Crisis 727. All right, let's turn this on so you guys can see what the frick I'm seeing here. There we go. All right. Cool picture. Although I don't quite recognize what it is, I like the picture. Let's check it out together.
There's a world outside and I won't hide from it. We almost started a light, nothing can bump up the price. No proof that we get it twice. Here with the roll of the dice. Time must be barricade with the way that it bright. Wish I could catch all the stars in the sky. Gotta get out of my bed. This is not time for a rest. No resets. Gotta get out of my head. Every day reset, causing me stress. Happiness calling me less. Look at the power of death. I feel death on my neck. Lately you're making me less. How could I not be upset? Cause I gotta get up. Yeah. Yeah, there ain't no other way. I can face another day like this. But I won't stay in bed. 'Cause there's a world outside and I won't hide from it. Only thing that's out to is my soul. Nothing else you can't control. Mama said, say it goes. Only love's gonna make you whole. Life's on a ride. Just know the toll. It don't be surprised. It's over fast, a cool stroll. Sometimes I'd rather burn the bridge. Stern and nothing is worse than this. Concern that it is a curse to live. All the bad ideas that I'm taking with. I'll see better every day. Through a dirty window, everything is gray. I've been low and no longer pray. Don't know how much more I can say. Gotta get up. Yeah, there ain't no other way. I can face another day like this. But I won't stay in bed. 'Cause there's a world outside and I won't hide from it.
All right. Cool. Let me just grab some water and be right back. Ah, the tension. All right. Cool. I dig it, man. It's giving me some Sage Francis vibes. I'm not sure if you're familiar. That's Sage Francis, like the name Sage Francis. He did a song called Water Lion, which this kind of reminds me of a little bit. And there's another one which I can't remember the title of, but it's giving me a little bit of that vibe for sure, and a little bit it reminded me of what's that name called? Pretty Pimpin', is that what it is? That's the title of the track. Pretty Pimpin' by Kurt Vile, Kurtvile. So in terms of the guitar arrangement, it reminded me a little bit of that, country vibe, but that really driving kind of finger style acoustic kind of vibe on the guitars, which I like. So musically, I really like it. I think the track is great. Yeah, there's some things going on with the mixing, and I know you want me to talk about that mostly. We'll get to that. Okay, so first of all, I think the verses, the rapping works really, really well. I really like that stuff. The flow here is just really great. I think the drums, in terms of sound design, could probably be a little bit cooler. I think I would like a kick drum that has a little bit more oomph to it here in this case. Not something that's so like, carton box or whatever. Cardboard box, that's the word I'm looking for. Something that has a little bit more oomph to it, right? I think the snare could also have a little bit more, a little bit more funk to it. And in general, like the playing of the drums, I know it's MIDI, but like if you ever get to record this with a real drummer, I think it would make all the difference. Like I want to hear something that's a little bit more gritty, something that's a little bit more, I'm looking for something like Tribe Called Quest here. I think that would work really rather well. Something that has a little bit more edge to it. The recording should sound a little bit more lo-fi. I think that's the word I'm pretty much looking for. The guitars, I think, are nice. There's a lot of guitars going on, and I wonder if you could, in terms of arrangement, just build that up a little bit more instead of like giving us all of that right from the start. Because I think it starts with all guitars all at once, right? Yeah, so it doesn't, it's just one guitar in the beginning, but it starts with the vocals at the same time. And it is a little bit confusing, like in terms of the arrangement. I think big part of that, though, is for sure the vocal performance. And I must say, I don't really like your chorus that much. I think your voice, to me, it doesn't really quite work so well. I think the rapping, again, is great. And, like, kudos. I think that works really, really well. But the chorus just kind of takes the energy out of it. And I personally, I would have really liked to hear something almost like sort of R&B-ish on the chorus instead of something like here. So I'm almost hearing something along the lines of like a Justin Timberlake kind of chorus, something like what goes around comes around, something. Something more with a sort of like even kind of flow, but sort of very relaxed, so that the verses stand out much more when they have, because they have so much emotion. I think the contrast would be really cool, because right now everything is kind of broken and kind of like that, and I really could see some female vocals on that chorus doing something very kind of relaxed, something very R&B-ish, and you kind of maybe do some shouts on top of that, like, oh, something like that every once in a while, sort of like ad-libbing on top of that. But very simply, and just kind of letting it just kind of ride along, having something that's super cool, that this chorus that kind of just moves the track along at a really cool and even pace. Because right now, the chorus is the moment when I think the track kind of falls apart. The verses are just like, it's great tempo, great flow, great timing here, and then the chorus just kind of starts to fray a little bit at the edges. Because the writing is not strong enough here, I think. The melodies are they're okay. They're not good enough, I think. And having something here that has a little bit more drive, that takes a little bit more control of the melody, something that isn't so, because right now it feels like you're leaning into the music instead of trying to do something yourself. So I would like to hear some melody here that has a little bit more drive, a little bit more flow to itself. Apart from that, though, I mean, that's a pretty big part, of course, but man, like if I got a nickel for every time I said the chorus needs more work, I'd be a millionaire. So it's nothing uncommon, but I think it's probably your biggest point of improvement is definitely that chorus. And again, I could really hear some like female vocals on here. I think that'd be really great. Plus, more women into songwriting. So. Anything else? I think that's pretty much it. I really like the ending. I think the intro it comes a little bit out of nowhere because the guitar lick is fairly complex. I think I would have probably let that play once before the vocals start. Yeah, I don't even know if you want to. I mean, you could start with the chorus. There's not really an issue with that, I think. But I would definitely have, if it's a complicated guitar lick like this, start with that, let that play once, and then do the chorus, like then bring in the vocals. Not at the same time, because otherwise it's a little bit too much. And because your vocal performance is so, it's the timing isn't that great. It's very loose, and the pitch isn't that great. That's also very loose. It's just a little bit messy, and what I'm looking for here is just a really defined, clear picture. And it took me a while to get into the song. As soon as the drums came in, all of that went away, and it was like, oh, okay, so here's where we are. This is like, I understand this now. But up until that point, it was just a little bit fuzzy, and I didn't like that. So there, hopefully that helped you. I really like it. I think the atmosphere here is great, and I think the verses, again, are really, really cool. Not just saying that, I think they're really, really cool. I think you really got something here. And I like the guitar riffs. I like all the musical ideas in it for sure, except maybe again the chorus melody. But very good effort. I'd like to hear a second version of this. Cool. Let's go with Lyubomir Gorshak. Lyubomir. Okay. Who says another song from our debut album. In past weeks, I asked for feedback on what we can improve for the next album. Is I'm guessing that's supposed to mean. I mean, I imagine a lot of the feedback you've already provided will apply here. Now that you've heard a few songs, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what you think our sound is. I don't expect the depth to go with pro artists relating keys and chord progressions to image, but perhaps just high-level overview. The reason I ask is because Blazon started as a virtual band, meaning we could collaborate online and exchange parts. Almost none of the members have ever spoken or met in person. Oh, that's cool. And only know of each other through me. That's really cool. That's really cool. We call ourselves progressive rock because we'll inevitably write a 20-minute concerto with theremins and garage door openers. Garage door openers? Okay. The goal is to have the class and refinement of bands like Supertramp, Yes, Toto, with a punk edge like Fugazi or Nirvana. All right. Cool. Let's check this song out first. This is called Windfall.
Got a little time, I can call it mine. I'm so grateful, so grateful. Got caught up, nothing falling behind. I'm so grateful, so grateful. Got high lost, see turn a dime. I'm so grateful, so grateful. Something left undone. We're not done, been waiting for a sign. I've been waiting for a windfall or a gold mine. Just any kind of sign. I don't mind. Been waiting all this time. Now I walk the line.
Okay.
Something left undone. We're not done. Been waiting for a sign. I've been waiting for a windfall or a gold mine. Just any kind of sign. I don't mind. Been waiting all this time. Now I walk the line.
Whew, okay. All right. Again, another one of those songs that probably would need to listen to at least 2 more times to really give any substantial feedback. it's difficult because there's a lot of stuff going on and there's a lot of different elements, like, jumbled through each other, which is also a big part of my criticism for sure. But there's some really cool stuff going on here as well. I think so. For me personally, I think the song really starts taking off right around here, like right at the midpoint. Like that's when I was like, you could see my head just going like this. Oh yeah, okay, I'm really digging this. Like this section here. I really like that because here for the first time, the backing track, so the rhythm section was just really working together. I like the da da. It's just like, and it's just silence. Everyone just knows when to shut up because the groove is strong enough to, and the bass to carry that whole section. You don't need anything else. There's almost a little bit too much going on. So let's maybe talk about this section really quickly here. Let's just listen to the guitars here. So the guitars are playing da 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 da, right? Personally, I think the guitars would have been stronger if they played even less. Da 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 da. Just that, just sticking to that. Don't even make it more complicated than that. I think would have been much stronger because the bass and drums are so strong here. Because the bass is already playing a little lick here, the do da way da, that kind of thing, and the guitars, by playing their own lick on top of it, it's too much. Like there's two licks on top of each other now, and now we don't know which one to listen to. And this is a common issue that I have with this track, is that there's sometimes too many people not listening to what the other instruments are doing, and that really just kind of makes me sad because everyone here has great ideas, but what's missing is the communication with the other musicians. So, the best guitarists are the ones that you only miss when they're gone. You know what I mean? And here, and I'm not only dissing on the guitar player here. I think I'm kind of dissing on everyone. To be fair, it's really that there's everyone has good ideas, but right now it's a battle for attention, and that doesn't work in a song like this. You guys need to be much clearer on who takes which section. So like this moment here, there's too much going on, and I'm immediately turning out. I'm just like, I don't know. It's too much. Because this could have been so good, but it's because the guitarist and the bassist both wanted to play a lick here because it's the right moment to do it. The drums kind of feel like they're asking for it, like they're playing something where you're like, oh, that's cool, I want to play something over that. It feels right, and I know how that feels. Like you hold your guitar, and if you play that live, I would probably play something over that, and then everyone does it at the same time. And live, that happens all the time. But in a studio situation, you have to carefully listen for those moments, and you have to make a decision. Everyone has to, sort of get together, and you have to make an agreement. Like so you say, like, hey, so what do we think? Which lick is best? And it can only be one. And you listen to this one, you listen to that one in isolation, just with together with everything else. But so you take out the guitar and you listen to that. Okay, so that was the bass. Then you take out the bass and listen to it with the guitar. You check out that, and then you make a decision which one of those two is better. And the other instrument is just going to play something very simple in that place. They don't have to play anything. They don't play a lick there essentially. And that is, I think, my biggest issue with this whole track, is that we often have too many things happening all at once because everyone wants to jump in on those opportunities to play a little lick or to play a little thing. What I'm really missing is the playing together, is the listening for each other, is the okay, I'm going to take a step back so you can shine for a moment, and next you're going to take a step back so I can shine, and that is like the cool trade-offs that you can get in if you have a live band with you. If you're working online, it's not a problem. You can totally do this. You just have to be aware of this, and the person who goes through this whole song at the end, the producer of it, he's the one responsible for taking all that stuff out that's not necessarily needed. And right now, here, again, it's battling for our attention. That means if something is battling for my attention, that means you've lost me, right? Because I can't focus on two things at the same time. That's why I also said, like, I'd have to listen to this a couple more times to be able to first of all, find the distinction between these different instruments, and then being able to listen to each part individually, and then being able to tell which one I want to listen to, because the mixing all here also doesn't like show me like, hey, this one is more important. Now, it is totally possible sometimes through mixing to make one of them shine and the other one is kind of, for example, with bass guitar, sometimes it's totally possible to have the bass play a sort of lick, but and the guitars are also playing a kind of lick, but because the bass is so buried in the mix, it doesn't matter at all. And the bass can pretty much play whatever it wants to as long as it kind of hits the most important notes. So that can happen for sure. But in this case here, the bass and the guitars, they're both so present in the mix that they're really getting in each other's way like that. Okay. This section here I really like, though. I think the drums are fairly cool, and I like, they're a little uneven timing-wise, and sure, that could be better. I think it should be better, but I also like sometimes that there's some inaccuracies with the timing. There were some moments that I thought they got a certain life out of it, especially here this ending section where the drums are kind of like they're a little wobbly in terms of timing, but I like that. I thought that was quite cool. So then we have these first two sections, though, and here's where for me, it was too much. It was too many things all at once. And it really sounded like someone wrote something which already worked on itself. Maybe, let's say, the guitarist wrote a guitar riff to a drum beat that they wrote, like they programmed with MIDI. And it kind of worked already. And then they sent it to the saxophone player who said, like, oh, cool, I got a cool lick for that. And they play this, send it over to the bassist who says, like, oh, cool, I got a cool idea about that. And so everyone is just kind of adding their thing without ever thinking about like, well, what can we take away? Like, what's really necessary? Oh, so whenever I'm adding a new instrument to the mix, there's two questions I ask myself. There's two ways in which that can work, I think. If I have something that already works, right? If I have something that already works, most often my number one question to myself is, does it need anything else? And if so, why, right? So in this case, let's say you had a guitar riff and the drum beat underneath it, and like it's already working. Like the groove is just perfect, and it just flows super well. It's a natural beauty. What I'll ask myself is like, okay, does it need anything else? And my answer is, okay, maybe, because I don't want to just have a section that is just naked guitars plus drums. So maybe there should be a little bit more there. Okay, so it would be nice to have a little bit fuller sound. So how can we add something that doesn't take over the track, something that just adds something without, splitting our attention, without splitting our attention. And the way I think that often is just by playing, like if I was the saxophone player, I would have played more accents, like shorter notes, like da, 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 and kind of phrasing together with the instruments that are already there. You kind of want to figure out like what are the accents that the band is playing and kind of play with that. You don't want to add too much of your own thing. You'll get a section, like if you guys work well together, there should be a section maybe every couple of songs or so where you have a moment where you can really shine and do your own thing. And maybe if you write your own song, you make it all about the saxophone part, right? But generally, you want to play functionally. You want to serve the track, not take over the track. And it feels like everyone is kind of battling for attention in this first half, unfortunately. So I'm not singling out the saxophone by any means here, by the way, or the guitars. I'm just giving this as an example, right? Because everyone is kind of guilty of this on this track. The drums, by the way, the least. I think the drums are doing a pretty good job because they're playing pretty straightforward, and that's kind of what kept the track kept the togetherness of the track. Without the drums, I think this would have been a mess. But the drums really do help in terms of like clearing out where we are in the groove and etc. All that stuff. So the drums are a super essential part of this track. Okay. What else? I think that's plenty for now. Hopefully that gives you some good ideas for how to continue in the future. Please listen to each other. And someone needs to make the tough decision at the end. Maybe all together, although I know how difficult that can be. But someone needs to make those tough decisions in the end and say like, okay, well, this isn't as great as this. So this one, goes. And we'll keep that one and make sure that one just sounds as great as possible. So as well as like same thing with the beginning here, by the way. Let's listen to that one more time. So, one more time from the very start. Okay. So to me, the guitar really surprised me, and in a negative way, I think, because the intro kind of feels like it's like a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It feels like almost like a 6/8 or like a triplet kind of thing, you know. But there's definitely like a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 in there, and then the guitars are like a chicka 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 chicka, playing a 16th groove on top of that. So I don't know. To me, that didn't really work so well. Listen to that again. So. So, okay. So I don't know. It just felt like so. This can work now that I'm hearing it. Like as soon as the guitars come in, and then and then we hear the piano in the background, they kind of work together. I think what it is probably the timing of the piano needs to be more clear, so it's clear that this is not like a triplet or a 6/8 kind of thing, but that it is like very clearly like 16th groove kind of 16th note, a sub 16 groove. If that is more clear in the beginning, then when the guitars come in, it's gonna be more of a feeling of like, oof, cool, like we're moving somewhere, instead of like, ooh, okay, that's changing the track in a negative way. Now this I really like. I think that's pretty cool. And again, here it just feels like you guys aren't really listening to each other. There's just a little. Everyone's kind of playing at the same time. Everyone's kind of taking that same hit, and then there's a moment where there's pretty much nothing happening. Whereas I think it would have been much nicer if some people took the first half, and then there's like a little bit of an ebb and flow where then some other instruments take over, and there's kind of something more of a trade-off kind of thing instead of like everything or nothing, right? So that should give you a bunch of ideas how to continue in the future, and I don't want to but spend too much time on an individual song like this, because I've already talked about it like for 20 minutes or so. I think it's cool. You know, you guys definitely have your own style. And okay, so you wanted me to talk a little bit about image and things like that. I think what I'm hearing is certainly like a progressive thing, and you know, like not adhering to any rules, and I think that's quite cool. You guys have like a sort of over the top style. There's a little bit of funk, a little bit of fusion in there, and I quite like that. I think that's pretty cool. And so I think the working online bit, like working with someone over Skype or over chat or whatever, is cool because it allows everyone to just like give it 100%. So there's the mutating happens really quickly here. So someone has like an idea which is already quite cool, then someone else takes it and mutates it, right? It says like, okay, how can we take this to the next level, make this completely extreme. Third person takes it to the next level, right? And so this gets mutated over and over again, and at the end you have a song that sounds very progressive. I think that's quite a cool approach. Guys just have to learn a little bit more how to edit yourselves, like, so not to take everything on. Like sometimes you'll say like, hey, oh, you know how the way this new instrument is added here, there's this one moment where something interesting happens, can we work that out a little bit more? So you know, the bass and the guitar at this one moment, like how they fuse together is really cool. Can we make the whole section just about that sound, right? I think you guys need to edit yourselves a little bit more throughout the, what do you call it, kill your babies, kill your darlings, is a saying from the screenwriting world, where you have to go over your project and rewrite and make sure that all of the elements that are there are absolutely necessary to the song. And I'm sure I can hear there's some stuff going on here that's certainly not necessary to the song. That's kind of just adding for the sake of adding without like really bringing in anything new. And by bringing in anything new, I mean changing the song in a meaningful way, not just adding something on top of it, you know? Right now, this is just like a whole lot of stuff thrown in a box instead of carefully laying out the box and kind of figuring out where everything goes. So, yeah, that's musically my biggest criticism. And also in terms of image, I think once you guys understand how you can organize your box, how you can fit everything inside the box, and mutating in a way that doesn't kill the idea from the person before, but just changes it, transforms it in an interesting and weird maybe way, I think then you guys will have found your sound. But that's kind of the challenge that you're facing, I think. And you definitely need someone at the end of it all who's going to edit it all. All right. Hopefully that gave you an answer, a kind of answer. If you want to know more about this, please feel free to ask me about image again in a future episode. I already just spent so much time on the feedback of this particular song that I didn't really get around to answering your question, which I think was the main thing you wanted to know about. So I'm sorry if I spent time on the wrong thing, because you've already finished the song, obviously. But maybe it gave you some good ideas for the future. Okay, Jenny Lass is posting a song for the first time, I think. Maybe not. I think maybe last week she posted something. I'm not quite sure. She says, "Hi from Scotland. Here's a track I'd love some feedback on. It's a work in progress, still to polish off editing and get mixing, and I'm about to embark on looking more closely at the production. So any thoughts on both the writing and where to go with production would be appreciated. Thanks in advance. Let's check this out. I'm excited because I'm seeing some comments here by people who really seem to like this track. So I'm excited what this is about it."
But who could define the gravitational pull? And as time moves on, as water pours, the rust sets in and cracks. They show that it's too late for me, 'cause I'm already fallen. It's too late for me to escape unscathed. It's too late for me, 'cause I took off my armor. It's too late for me, 'cause I already fell for him.
Damn, dude. Very cool track. And I now know for sure that you haven't posted anything before. Very cool track. I really like it. I really like it. I honestly, so there's just two things that stick out to me about this. The first of which being is that like down, 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 down. You know that synth there, which is a little too aggressive for my taste. Maybe it needs just a little bit more massaging. The patch. I don't know. It sounds maybe you're using an analog synthesizer. I think it's maybe a little too aggressive for the track. It feels like if it could sink into the track a little bit more. But now it's just like you know, it's right there. And while I like that at times that it has an aggressive edge to it, and I like that it's unpolished like that, I think you could probably get away with a little bit less. So it's still kind of edgy, but not as in your face, not as like, because that's what it feels like right now. It's like a punch in the face every time that comes in. I think it could be more subtle. Personally, I think that the song would flow a little bit better if it was a little more subtle. I think. The other thing is the vocals, which I think and this is maybe a personal preference, and to be honest, anything that I say at this point is personal preference, because I think the track already works like this, and I like how it works. It's rough and it's dirty, you know, the samples aren't quite clean and there's a lot of noise and everything. And I like that. I'm a huge fan of that kind of stuff in music. I like the lo-fi. I like the 8-bit shit. You know, I like that kind of thing. So for me, this track already works. And I think right now it would just be like small minor touch-ups to make this into a final track. Because again, I like it if things are unpolished. With this kind of music, like, you know, I'm a huge fan of Portishead, and they often have the very dry, kind of very soft vocals that are just kind of where it almost feels like they're fighting against the rest of the arrangement. So that's certainly something I would try with this track. Try like a super minimal vocal sound, the most minimal sound you could get. Like even like equalize out some certain parts of the vocals maybe to make it sound even smaller. You could also try sending it through a kind of effect like a distortion or what is it called? It's a megaphone. Is that what it is? It's a megaphone, right? The thing that they talk to, like with hostage negotiations, that thing, to just kind of get even a little bit more dirt into the vocals, because at the moment they're certainly the ones that have the most, that sound the cleanest. So try to get a little bit more grit into them that way, maybe with a little bit of saturation, or maybe again just like making them super small and placing them further back in the mix. I think the atmosphere in this is absolutely great. I love it. I think this is something I could totally see myself working to. I think it has a really nice atmosphere, really nice vibe. And again, I like the lyrics as well. I think the whole thing works really well. I like the vocal arrangement. I love the backing vocals that you're using when you're going into the chords and stuff like that, and when you even have those little runs in the vocals. I think that is just phenomenal. I'm a huge fan of that. And it's a nice combination with this kind of music, which is so drony, so simple, and then to have these little runs, especially the one you do runs like in harmony. I think that is just so cool and really interesting, and it's something I don't think I've seen before. You know, at least not a lot. So yeah, really good going. I really like this. I can't wait to hear the final thing. Like, please don't overdo it with the mixing. I think for me, I mean, I'm a huge fan of this kind of music, and for me, it can't be rough enough almost, you know, like I like how rough this is. And I just like anything from here on out would just be like making things even rougher without like, you know, overdoing it. Obviously you want it to seem like loosely thrown together. You don't want it to seem like someone put a lot of time into making it sound rough by adding too much distortion and things like that. You know, then you go to the opposite extreme, and then you have something that's more like industrial. Now what I like about this is that it feels like it's just like it's quickly produced. It's kind of spur of the moment kind of way of producing, and that can sometimes yield some really interesting, you know, unpolished, raw diamond kind of results. And this is kind of what I'm hearing here. So hopefully you can retain the magic. Even like, don't polish too much. Like, please don't go in and EQ too much. Don't use too much reverb, especially not reverb in the vocals, please. I think it's just going to make the whole thing too pretty. Just keep it a little bit rough. I think the song is going to have more life because of it. And again, that's my opinion, but at this point, we're really just talking about opinion. You know, there's a part of songwriting where it's about, you know, there's definitely some things where you can talk about fact and say like, okay, this is definitely better than that, and you probably shouldn't be doing this because blah, blah, blah. At this point, like with this song, I feel like it already works, and right now we're really just talking on a higher level of opinion. And so if you want to hear my opinion, I think you should keep it raw. And again, maybe make that one synth not stick out as much, and make the vocals even like sit further in the mix, and make them sound really small and raw and unpolished. Very, very cool track. Really, really happy with this. And I can't wait to hear your next stuff. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. And Pinlight Music is online as well. Hi, Jenny. How's it going? Hopefully you can do something with that feedback of mine. All right. So let's move on. How many songs do we have left? It's now 7 p.m. where I am. So we have 5 songs left. I think I'm going to do one more, and the rest of them we're going to do in another session, maybe tomorrow or something like that. I have to figure out when to do that, though. Maybe tomorrow will work. Maybe sometime during the day. On Tuesday, I'm already in Berlin again. It's just like, you know, it's impossible to arrive at home and just to do the work. It's pretty crazy right now. All right, so let's check out Fall on Me, which is from Sam, who says, listen to Fall on Me, 4319 working by... it's a work in progress. Okay. So he says, this is called Fall on Me. Welcome your thoughts. I simultaneously like the vocal melody and think it could be better, particularly in the chorus. As usual, this is a demo, so mix and sounds and band dynamics will be better in final.
This is the right way.
All right. I think it's a good thing that you mentioned that this is all going to be re-recorded because that would have been my first piece of criticism. But okay, so I really like the track. I think you have a really cool voice, man. I think you have a nice kind of um, it's a difficult to explain it, but it's a low kind of almost kind of a bored kind of sound, but in a cool way. I like that. Because that can also go the other way, where it really doesn't work. But with your voice, it really feels like it's got this sort of, it's got attitude, and I really like that. Okay, so in terms of the track, I think it works really well. I think the energy curve of it is great. The solo felt a little too major for me. It felt like that was taking out of it, and it kind of starts with this. So there's two times the same solo. I can see clearly now the rain is gone. It's got a little bit of that, and that's a little too nursery rhyme for me, maybe. So I was expecting something a little bit different there. It just took me by surprise the first time I heard it. I think my main criticism is really the chorus, and I think it's probably my only piece of criticism about the songwriting, because I think everything else works really beautifully. I think there's some really great moments in this. I really like this section here. Where is it? Oh, that sounds so nice. Like it feels really like, oh, building, 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 and then the last chorus comes, and it's a great moment. I love that. That's my favorite moment for sure. Sounds absolutely fantastic, and I think the chorus also, in terms of the arrangement, certainly works. I just feel like the melody probably could be a little bit stronger. And again, feel like I'm sounding like a broken record here because that's what I seem to be saying to everyone. But it's just the trickiest part of any song is getting that damn chorus right. So let's listen to that again. So first of all, I'm not sure if you want to, because I'm falling, and then you go into this other whole bit, and then you come again with the first one. I'm not sure if I would do a variation of that, because it feels like that's the header of your chorus. Like that's the most important line for your chorus is always the first line, right? I call it a header, like in a blog post. The header, that's what everyone sees. That's what everyone remembers. And I feel like you should probably stick to your header and not change it around too much, especially when you have a moment like this where we have a break and it feels like this is the last chorus that we're going to hear. Then I really want to hear the header and not header H2, which is the one that you use in the repetition. So that's the first thing. And probably since you have such long notes, it's always just a great opportunity for using some backing vocals to add some color to that, So you got the let's see if we can find another chorus here. To have some backing vocals that just add a little bit of color to that, and and it's something you can build as well. That doesn't have to come on with the first chorus. It could, but it doesn't have to. You can add that in later stages. You could even have something like this. You have like a use a line like this is just an example because I don't think it will work in this song, but if you have a section in your song that has like a sort of groovy line, you can use that line at the same time as the main vocals in a chorus if the main vocals have long notes. Long notes just allow you for a ton of experimentation. That's a great way to do some interesting things. So right now the melodies I don't know. It was something like that. I think I like my melody from just now just a little bit better. I think it felt a little bit more structured. Let's listen to this one again, and I'll tell you where I think it's gone wrong. And again, maybe this is just my personal opinion, but for me, the chorus feels like it's developing a little too far away from this original idea, and I want to hear something that is just a little bit more structured. Yeah. I think just let that ring out. I think it's stronger. And then rather use a pickup phrase for the next line. I think that would be stronger. Because the song's called Fall on Me, not Fall on Me Again, you know? So. Yeah, also here. Which feels a little too resolved for me. Like, for me, like the header again is the right? That's like the big moment that everyone's waiting for, that everyone can sing along to. And so whenever the B phrase in this, because this ends on the 1, it just kind of, there's not really a lot of tension. It's just kind of like, it's a melody of its own like this. I think if you went with something that builds tension towards the next header, I think it would be stronger. So something, or maybe something like that. Or something like, so you could even end it early. No, okay, that's too resolved. And again, it sounds a little bit too cliche as well, but something that feels a little more together, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good. The rhythm is good. The rhythm is clear here. Again, I wouldn't use the again because it kind of splits it. Like it feels like a full stop. I think if you just leave I think that would already work. Like that's a super small tweak to what you have, but to me that already works much stronger. It doesn't feel as stop and go. It feels like it has more of a flow to it. And again, that would just be a very, very small change. So hopefully you like that and you didn't totally hate me for ruining your melody. Okay. Folks, thanks so much for stopping by. I'm just going to have a quick read through the live chat right now. Cool. All right. Pinlight Music can't watch the video because the internet connection is so bad, so she'll catch up on it later. No problem at all. Happy to hear that you guys like my feedback. And cool. Oh, okay, Marcus, please feel free to comment your song again on the new post. Don't feel bad about doing that because I'm not going to look at the old post again. And if you're in the same situation as Marcus, please don't feel bad about posting your song again because I'm not going to look at the old post again in my live stream that I'll be doing tomorrow afternoon, I'm guessing. So I'll see you guys very, very soon again. And I'm looking forward to hearing more of your songs. Thank you so much for stopping by. Take care and stay gefährlich.